welcome to CEC lectures. Myself Dr. Preeti Chagwani from Department of Computer Science, Aribhat College, University of Delhi. I welcome you all to the beginning of a new series which is database management systems, and today is our introductory lecture for this particular series. So we would like to see what actually is database management systems, and how it operates, what is its worth, and what is its usage and all other kind of things. So, when we talk about the term database management system, in this, let's say we are going to pick the first word, which is database. So, database is something which is having the word data in it. So, let us begin from here and try to understand what is data. So, data, if you can see a dictionary definition of the data, dictionary says it's factual information, it could be measurements or statistics which are used for maybe discussions, or maybe used for calculations or reasonings or anything of that sort of operations. So basically we can say a numerical data, numerical figures or numerical entities which can be which are collected through observations. This is what the dictionary definition of the data is. Now, if we talk about somewhat more technical as in let's say we talk about the what is the definition of data which is given on maybe let's say Wikipedia. So, data is a set of values of qualitative and quantitative variables which are about one or more persons or objects. So, basically set of values of quantitative and qualitative variables, and these variables, this set of values is about some entities. Now, entities here is could be person or the object. So, this is what this is what actually is the definition which is given by the Wikipedia. Now, the word data itself, if you can see, is something which is plural, and if we talk about the singular, so singular of data is datum, which is we can say a single value, maybe a single variable. So, here if we talk about the examples of data which are available around us, so we can say everywhere, everything everything is data, either it is already data or it can be converted into the data. So, I will be describing this in a moment. But going by the definition itself, if we can say what all data is present, so we can say let us take the example of a person, and any characteristic, any information about a person, let us say name, address, its Aadhaar card number, or anything about that particular person, his or her gender and so on and so forth, is actually the data. Now, if we say that each and everything can be represented in the form of data, in this connection, let us try to see what are types of data. So, types, basically there are two types of data, one is the unstructured data, another one is the structured data. So, if we talk about structured data, that is a data which is having its own meaning, or technically we can say data supplied with the semantics which have its own interpretation, or information which is having its own interpretation, like this is often categorized as the quantitative data. For example, as I was just telling, it could be an Aadhaar card number, a credit card number, name, address of a person, and so on and so forth. If we talk about unstructured data, it is often, not always, but yes, often characterized as categorized as the qualitative data, which cannot be processed and analyzed through conventional tools and methods. So, for example, let us say we are talking about any long piece of text, that is an unstructured data. Could be a mobile activity. So, you are watching some reels, or you are watching some social media and pressing the like button, that activity itself is some form of data, or it could be any activity on your social media. So, that is why I was saying that each and everything around us can be converted into the data. If it is in a qualitative form, quantitative form, we can say it is structured data, or it could be unstructured data for all these kinds of unusual types, like your mobile activity, your social media activity, you have text, you have video, you have audio, and so on and so forth. So basically, we can say the data here is something which represents an object, which represents a person, some values about that person, quantitative or qualitative it could be, or some factual information which either is in the form of unstructured data, or it is in the form or it is in the structured format. So we call that the structured data. So this was actually about the data. Now the question comes up, when in the very beginning or maybe in the first class of computer, a child is being taught about the computer. So we teach a child that one of the important characteristics of the computer is the storage. So now comes here the question that how are we going to store the data into the computers. So this data can be stored inside the computers through two ways, either or maybe we can say three ways. Either it is in the form of a file system, or it is in the form of a CMS, which is content management system, or the third form could be the database management system, or simply as of now we can say the database. So each and every form here, which is file system or your CMS content management system or the database management or the database, here are having their own advantages and disadvantages. So basically we will be comparing two storage we can say concepts here. One is about the file system and another one is the database management system. So file system, as we all deal in the domain of computers, we all are aware of that what is a file system. So file basically in its traditional means or in its traditional way, we can say it's a collection of records basically, or when we talk about the term file system, it is a way of arranging the files in a storage medium like hard disk, and in which form these files are going to be arranged. So the simple answer here is the hierarchical form. So we have a root directory, then within the root directory we have some directories, and within those directories we have some subdirectories, within those subdirectories we have files. So we all understand this hierarchical system of file storage, but coming to the term file itself, the file here is, I can say, a collection of records. So there is one record terminated, then another record is beginning, and then so on and so forth. Now basically file system says that it is a way in which the files are named and they are placed logically. Why this logical placement is required? That is for the easy and efficient storage and retrieval. So without a file system, any stored information would not be isolated into individual files and would be more difficult to identify and retrieve. It is very important to have a file system if we want to make the identification and retrieval of the data or the information easier and convenient. So this was about the file system. Now if we talk about the next term, which is the database, as I have told you that we will be comparing the two things. One is the file system, that is how are we going to these two storage techniques or these two storage concepts we will be comparing. One is your file system. This is just what we have seen. Now the next term comes as the database. So on in many of the books or all over on the internet, you will find ample of definitions of the term database, but the most accurate and the most simplest definition of the database is it is a logical collection of interrelated data. I repeat here, logical collection of interrelated data. So that means there is a collection of data that data has to be interrelated and the data has to be logical. Now, let me explain these two terms here which are very, very important. One is logical, another one is interrelated. So, for example, I am having a collection of data as it is shown on the screen. So, the first item which is being stored here is roll number. The second item which is being stored here is the name. Third is subject, and the fourth one is whatever the marks in the subject are. So, by this you can easily guess that this particular data, which is roll number, name, subject and marks, is talking about an object or is talking about a student, right? Because the student is having a roll number and it is having some he or she is having some marks in some particular subjects, and obviously identify name is also there. So, this is actually a logical collection of data, all and also apart from being logical, the whole data is interrelated. Why I am saying so? So, for example, within this data, let me add one more piece of information or one more piece of data in which I am saying, let us say, number of chairs. So, now I am having roll number, name, subject, marks and number of chairs. So, is it actually logical to have this number of chairs along with the student data, or maybe I can say salary of the employee? Is it a logical idea to have salary of the employee along with this student data? The answer is obviously no. Why? Because this data is actually not interrelated. Now, for example, the another term which is available here is the logical. As I have told you that logical collection of interrelated data is database. Now, for example, I am having these fields roll number, name, subjects and marks. So, the whole data is interrelated because every item here is talking about the student. Okay. Now, let us say for example, I am in the column of roll number, I am writing let us say Varun, and in the column of name I am writing 2001, which is the roll number. So, what I have done is within the roll number I have written the name, and within the name I have written the roll number. That means the collection still is interrelated, but now the collection is not logical. Why it is not logical? Because within the column of roll number or within the section of roll number I must have roll number, and within the section of name one should have the name only. So, that is what I am saying, a logical collection of interrelated data is what you called database. So, as an entity if you can see, or as an object if you can see, database is nothing but a file in which the data is stored in this form, in which the interrelated data is collected in a logical form. Now, that is what is the database. So, that logical collection of interrelated data. Now, if we talk about the term which is database management system, or it is more commonly pronounced as DBMS. So, now for example, we have a database. That database has to be created, that means that file or the database file has to be created, that database file has to be updated, then we have that database file, it could be there is a need to be to get it deleted or edited or something of that sort. So, for all these tasks we need a software which is going to perform all these tasks on that for that particular database file. So, the software which is used to manage the database is called database management system. And when I am saying manage the database, so what all tasks are required in management of database, that I am covering in a minute, but before that, if we can see the examples of the database management system. So, you must have heard very initially it was we were having some database DBase 3, then there was Fox Pro, and then some higher versions of FoxPro over there. Then we had, we have MySQL, then we have Oracle. These this MySQL and Oracle are the very popular commercial database management systems which are used in different applications nowadays. And the other two terms, which are DBase 3 and FoxPro, which I am talking about, were actually the kind of, we can say, earlier old were the database management system which were used in the legacy systems. So, database management system basically a software which is used to manage the database. Now, till this point we have seen what actually the data is, then what is then we understood what is database, and then we have also seen what is database management system, as in what is the definition of database management system. Now, when we talk about, or when we say that we have something which is related to management of the database files. Now, within this management, what all tasks are included, or what are all tasks are performed in DBMS. So, let us see the list. So, first task which is performed in DBMS is the data definition. So, data definition is nothing but creation, modification and removal of these database files. So, simply I can say creation, modification and removal of the database files, which are, or more technically if we are talking about, so that will say that creation, modification and removal of the definitions that define the organization of data in database. And if in simpler terms we want to understand, you can say creation, modification and removal of those database files. Apart from data definition, it is also having one other terms. One of them is data updation. So, data updation is insertion, modification or deletion, any of these activities which includes insertion, modification and deletion of the data which is written in the database is actually what you called is data updation. Now, we have stored the data, we have created the database files, we have stored the data. Now, it can be we can say it can be updated, that is fine. So, data updation comes here. Now, why we have stored? Because we need to retrieve it as and when required. So, retrieval of data is also very important task which is to be done by DBMS. So, retrieval of data from the database, and this particular data can be used by many of the applications for various purposes. So, that is what the data retrieval, which is the third we can say the third term when we talk about the tasks in database management system or the tasks in DBMS. Then we have another term which is which comes as user administration. So, user administration, so for example, we have various users which are accessing this database through this database management systems. So, these users should be registered, these users should be monitored in order to have the security. Then some of the consistency techniques should be implemented, some concurrency control should be implemented. The database should be in such a state that it should be recovered as and when it is corrupted, or maybe the data is lost or something of that sort. So, all these things apart from the data definition, data updation and data retrieval, all the other things, that is about the users and their administration, which is registering and monitoring users, working about or implementing the security of data, monitoring the whole performance, maintaining the integrity and concurrency control and so on and so forth, and also the we can say provisions about the backup and recovery. All these things comes under the user administration. So, tasks in DBMS, when we talk about, we say at a macro level we have 4 tasks. One is data definition, another one is data updation, third one is data retrieval and the fourth one is the user administration. Now, as we have seen two of the concepts. One is the file system, another one is the database management system, and we have seen, we can say, we have seen what? We have seen the definitions of these two in a nutshell. So basically these are what, whether we talk about the term file system or we talk about the term database, these are actually the ways to organize and manage the data. So file systems basically manage the data by arranging them within the files, and these files are arranged within the directories and subdirectories in a hierarchical structure, which we have earlier which we have seen earlier. And this hierarchical structure or this file system provide all the basic necessary operations which are required for creation, deletion, renaming, accessing and other common operations to be done on the file. So point is, if both are the file system as well as the database management system, both are talking about the storage of data and management of data, then what is the difference between this file system and DBMS? So first of all, let me tell you, this file system is, we can say it, file system for storage of this kind of data is actually a term which was used or actually a system which was used earlier. This is actually a simple and efficient system, but they actually lack the ability to manage the complex data relationships, and sometimes consistency and concurrency, all these important characteristics of the data cannot be maintained using file system. Now why they cannot be maintained using file system, that I will be telling you in a short while. While if we can see the other side of the coin, which is the DBMS, as we have seen, it's a software system which is designed, uh, we can say, to manage large amounts of data, which are actually which could be structured, or nowadays we have database management systems, or other provisions basically which are there for unstructured data. So presently I am talking about, or I am focusing only on the structured data. So basically a software system designed to manage large amount of structured data. Now how this data is managed, because all the provisions of storing, retrieving, manipulating data are being we can say are being provided there. Then we can say basically a database is also a centralized and organized way of storing data which can be accessed and modified by multiple users or application. Now this is very important when we talk about the multiple users or applications, because this is something which is not available. This is a provision, or this is a facility, I can say, which is not available when we store the data in kind of, we can say, data inside the file system. So here the database management system is more of an organized way, and the databases can also be used by many of the users, multiple users simultaneously. And also many of the terms, if you can see what are the features or what are the terms I am talking about, which is concurrency control, then data validation, maintaining the data integrity, mechanisms of recovery and backup, and data consistency, data accuracy and integrity. All these terms, or all these characteristics which are very important, can be very well handled or implemented if we are storing the data, using DBMS, and cannot be maintained if we are storing the data in the flat file system. Now what are all these terms, that I will be telling you in the next slot of this particular series. So till this point what we have covered is, we have seen what is actually the data, then from data we we went to database, then from database we covered database management system, and we have seen what are the terms which differentiate the database management system from the flat file system, as they both are actually some concepts which are related to the storage of data. And we have also seen what are the advanced features and what are the advantages which database management system is providing over flat file system. All these terms and terminologies I will be covering in the next lecture. So, here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of lecture. Hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you for a patient hearing. I will see you in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye.